are visiting the White House today, a tradition. I don't know how far it goes back, but for the Golden State Warriors, it's one of the perks of being the defending world champions. But that's kind of a boring subject. We're gonna get into some more nitty-gritty topics like Draymond Green, who has said some very interesting things lately, including regarding his future with the Warriors, how the team is doing this year. And we're going to discuss that Thursday Celtics game and just how relevant and important it is. Plus a lot of other information leaking out. We're going to talk about Kylen Mills is with me. We're going to do it all next. Where's my open? Is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. You can follow Kylen Mills on numerous social media platforms, including TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at Kylen Mills. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Twitter at Dog Surf Roadshow. Kylen, great to see you. I want to start the show with first, there's two big sound bites of Draymond's from two interviews he's done recently, which popped to me. The first is very positive. I want to start on a positive note. And this was Draymond. Do I have it queued up here? I do. With Stephen A. Smith, who himself is known for saying some pretty outlandish stuff, but it draws in ratings for good for him. And Draymond Green joined his podcast, which is called No Mercy. And Stephen asked Draymond about the team this year. They're 500 right now. Are they concerned? Is everything fine and dandy inside the walls of the Warriors dynasty? And here's what Draymond had to say.
How confident are y'all that y'all can get it together in time to ward off some of these thoroughbreds that are coming your way?
Very confident. We're very confident because ultimately we know what it takes. Get everything together that we know we need to get together, our offense, our defense, myself as a leader, and making sure our team is tight as it needs to be. And we control our own destiny. And when I say we control our own destiny, I mean that from the standpoint of if we play great, we win. If we get to the level that we know we need to be at in order to compete for a championship, I don't think anyone is beating us. And with those teams that you mentioned, the one thing we have on them is we've been there. We know what it takes.
All right. I think he makes a good point. Kylen, what are your initial reactions to Draymond's comments on this year?
So I have some mixed feelings. I feel like the Warriors have been saying that, Cyrus, all season long. Like, don't worry, we got this. Don't worry, we've been here before. And I feel like we've been saying this, myself included, like, don't panic yet. Don't panic yet. You know, the Warriors have been here before. They're going to get it together. They're going to figure it out. And like, I just keep waiting for the going to happen, like. Yes. I feel like that's kind of been the mentality of some of the players, both, and fans, like I said, myself included, that I just kind of assume at some point they're going to figure it out. But I don't know that that's been proven yet. So I don't know that I have the same confidence that Draymond Green has. I'm glad that he has that confidence. My concern is that I think the Warriors starters will figure it out. And some of the players he's pointing out, we've been here before. We've been here so many times. But to me, it's still the second unit in the bench that's the problem. And the fact that they just lack the depth, I think, that's needed to defend the title. And those players on the bench figuring out in the second unit haven't all been there before and haven't all been there through 8 NBA finals, et cetera, et cetera. So I believe definitely that the starters will roll like they did against the Wizards. My concern is the depth. And I think that's just kind of been a theme this season. I mean, even in yesterday's win against the Wizards, 21 points off the bench, 11 from DiVincenzo and Anthony Lamb, and that's it. Now, granted, Klay Thompson didn't play, and Jordan Poole would have potentially been in that second unit. And they have a couple other injuries still plaguing them. But I'm just saying, like, your two-way is your leading scorer off the bench. Like, I don't know. It still concerns me. It still concerns me. I'm glad Draymond's confident, and I think the starters, are going to figure it out. But my concern is the second unit, those minutes when Draymond and Steph aren't on the floor.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. There's only so much of that we've been there, done that you can rely on, because at a certain point, you've been there and done that is going to expire, and it's not going to work out for you. Experience is a very huge intangible. I don't doubt that for a second. But look, the Warriors, I feel like, have had 2 statement games this year, which deviate concerns considerably. One being the game at home against the Celtics, the other game at home on Christmas Day against the Memphis Grizzlies. These are 2 teams these are the 2 toughest outs for the Warriors in the playoffs. Those teams wanted those wins more than anything, and the Warriors put their foot down and were like, no, we're still the defending champs. Chill out. You're not in our league yet. But when you look at their road record, when you look at, you're right, like you said, the lack of depth, when you look at the fact that Steve Kerr continually is relying on 2-way players over other bench pieces, it's very concerning. I in no way, shape, or form have the comfort I had last year this year. The Western Conference is so anemic that I could see the Warriors getting out of the West still, even though Denver is starting to look damn good. But I still think they're okay in the West. What were your thoughts on Moses Moody getting like 5 minutes in that Wizards game? What bothered me is Ty Jerome got 14 minutes, and Ty Jerome reminded everyone in that game he's okay, but you can't count on him. I mean, he had 0 points. One of his layup attempts was something that I remember seeing when I was like playing junior high basketball, where Ty Jerome forgot how to do a layup. He used 2 hands to put it up. It was the most bizarre thing I've seen this year. And meanwhile, Moses Moody is rotting on the bench. What were your thoughts on that? Like, did you support that? Why is that happening? What's going on, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying that the last couple games, and it's something I tweeted out that got a ton of responses, and a ton of interaction, because I think a lot of people are on the same page as me in that, why isn't Moses Moody playing more? And the Warriors have still been dealing with a couple of injuries. Like, they don't have all of their second unit players and their complete depth. And that should be the time where Moses Moody's getting more minutes. And he played really well in that game against the Spurs. Did he finish with 12 points? I think it was. And he made a couple of nice plays. And then, the next game he plays 6 minutes. Against the Bulls, he played 3-4 minutes yesterday. And it's just, here's the thing. A couple people did respond to my tweet counteracting that and arguing that Moses Moody hasn't looked good. He's been, inconsistent. He hasn't been hitting threes. They said his defense is, suspect or shoddy at times, whatever. But he's not going to get any better by sitting on the bench. Like, that's the thing. I mean, this whole 2 timeline thing is predicated on development. And the young players aren't going to develop if they're not getting time. And you have to have more than 3, 4, 5 minutes to be able to really evaluate them and to allow them to work through some of those mistakes and to improve. And I also just feel like watching Moses Moody, he doesn't have the same confidence he had last season. I believe that. I think that he's playing a little bit more timid and not as aggressive as he was, even as a rookie. And I think that's because of having a short leash and knowing that he's only going to get a couple minutes. If he makes a mistake, he's going to get yanked. And even if he doesn't make a mistake, or at least anything huge, he still gets pulled after 5 minutes. So, it's puzzling to me, because if the team is losing, why not? I get, and they end up winning that game yesterday, but when you end up losing by 14 and Moses Moody only plays a couple minutes, it's like, what was the benefit of that? I think it was the Bulls game that I was tweeting that and complaining. Yeah, because they ended up losing. And I know it was close at half, but still, the second half was pretty ugly. And if you're going to lose, at least allow the young players to get some experience.
No, you're absolutely right. And the Warriors won that Wizards game with Stephen Curry playing 38 minutes. That is not the recipe for world championship success. This was supposed to be a season where the older veterans like Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, Clay, who didn't play, but at least those 2 are playing less minutes so they could stay fresh for the postseason. This is a team that was supposed to be able to handle less minutes for Steph and Dre and the other veteran players with the depth that they supposedly had. So so the Wizards game was one of those where they needed a win. It was the first time all season they won, the second of a back-to-back on the road. But I'm just not comfortable with Stephen Curry playing 38 minutes and relying that much on him against a team like the Wizards. The Wizards are arguably the worst team in the NBA. I mean, they're in a category with the Raptors and the Rockets of just being the absolute basement dwellers of the NBA. You need Steph to play 38 minutes to beat the Wizards. It's very concerning. So I'm totally with you. At a minimum, if this is how you're going to treat Moses Moody, put him in the G League. give him minutes there.
Yeah.
You know, like don't just let him sit and rot on the bench and the first sign of him not doing well, just yank him. You're absolutely right. It's killing his confidence. This is not the right way to handle him. You know, if you really just don't like him and you have no faith in him, trade him. I don't know. I don't get it. But you're absolutely right, though, that the front court is demolished right now. And it's showing, right? I mean, Jonathan Kuminga, who's been playing great minutes, has been out with that foot sprain. I have no idea what's going on there with that. JaMychal Green, who is very polarizing. When he comes back, he's been dealing with a right leg infection. I haven't gotten much detail on that either, but you know he's going to be playing significant minutes when he comes back. We'll see what happens. It's kind of crazy. But I want to play that other Draymond soundbite after this timeout because the other one is eye-opening. What he said is fascinating in an interview with Taylor Rooks, and we'll get into that in just a moment. First, have to give some love to Rocket Money. That's what today's show is brought to you by. And look, Rocket Money is all about this. It's about catching wasteful spending, right? And more specifically, let's say you have subscriptions you don't know about. I learned recently that I had 3 Amazon subscriptions that I never signed up for. That and yet for like I don't know how many months I was being charged close to $50 a month for like a Kindle subscription, a subscription to the Seattle Times. I don't even live in Seattle. And I forgot what the third thing was. So Rocket Money saves you. They're formerly known as Truebill, from wasting money for subscriptions, for apps, just for all sorts of stuff that you're spending money on that you're getting nothing back in return. Over 80% of people have subscriptions they forget about, like streaming services you bought just to watch like one show, for example, a free trial that you never even use, or Amazon ripping you off and subscribing you for things you don't even remember ever subscribing for. So stop throwing your money away, cancel unwanted subscriptions, and manage your expenses the easy way with Rocket Money. Just go to rocketmoney.com/lockedonnba. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedonnba. One more time, rocketmoney.com/lockedonnba.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen today. After us, go check out Game to Game NBA. Every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game across the NBA with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NBA, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Kylen Mills is also available on social media. You can follow her at Kylen Mills. So here is that other. Is there anything in the chat I've missed, by the way? Before I play this,
I got asked by NoCap if I was drinking a wine cooler. So during the ad read, I had to hold up my drink, and that wasn't meant to be an ad for my drink. But I'm not drinking a wine cooler. I know we're pretty cash here, but I'm not going. I was going to say,
even if you were, more power to you. You know, hey, life's short. Have fun as long as it's not interfering with your function.
Right.
All right. So here's Draymond Green with Taylor Rooks. And what he said is very interesting. Take a listen.
Is it hard for you to say that, like, there will be a day that you maybe aren't a Warrior?
No. Quite frankly, the writing's on the wall. I understand the business. We tend to get into this mindset of someone owes us something because of what we've accomplished. You'd be an idiot to walk around feeling that way. Like, I feel like you're just setting yourself up for failure. You're setting yourself up for heartbreak. You're setting yourself up for disappointment, as opposed to saying, no, let me learn this business. If you don't get to know the business, then you can be blindsided and be like, oh man, everything I've done there, I thought I'd be there forever. I would love to be. I understand the luxury tax. I understand you got these young guys and contracts up and they have to get paid. Like, I understand all of those things. And so just for me, that's what I mean by the writing's on the wall.
So I don't know if Draymond's ever been that forthright in terms of his future with the team. Kylen, your immediate reaction to Draymond Green saying the writing's on the wall and he could see himself leaving the Golden State Warriors?
I mean, I don't know that I'm entirely surprised, just like based on kind of what we've been hearing from Draymond, the organization in regards to, what's going on. Are they going to extend him for that extra year? I feel like there's been a lot of speculation about whether Draymond would stay after the season. So I'm not going to say that I'm totally shocked. I'm just shocked that he came out and said it. You know what I mean? Like, as you mentioned, Cyrus, that's pretty much as forthcoming as he's been. And it's interesting to me that he seems to be implicating that the Warriors have kind of sent the message or hinted to him that, business decisions are business decisions, and he, maybe not getting that max deal that he wants. Because that's the other thing. I mean, I think it was last summer, the reports were out that he was wanting a max deal. And apparently Steph Curry supported that. So if it comes down to like a money or a numbers game, I mean, maybe the Warriors have come out and said like, hey, we're not going to give you a max deal, for him to say that, oh, the writing's on the wall. So I don't know. It's kind of crazy just because Draymond Green has been a part of this organization through this championship run, to imagine, the big three breaking up, and it could potentially be the end of an era. And I believe that Steph Curry will retire a Warrior, but still it's not going to be the same if Klay Thompson or Draymond Green are out of the picture. Like that's what makes those three are what make the Warriors really special, and they have a special connection. And Draymond and Steph's ability to play together is, like none other. And I don't think that's replaceable. So it's interesting. It could be, the sign of a new era of Warriors basketball, because, I think a lot more would change than people realize if Draymond Green isn't on this roster.
Absolutely right. The bottom line is this, and I read someone write in the chat earlier that they questioned how much we like Draymond Green. I love Draymond Green. This team is not a dynasty without him. They don't win any of those world championships without him. I also want to add this. The traveling Urquidez wrote, Dre lost all goodwill with the punch. It's time. I want to add on to that real quick here, because I've had sources behind the scenes. I've had two of them now actually tell me that the day that punch happened, and I can't get into the specifics of it, that Draymond learned very personal information. And if you knew what this information was, the moment I heard it, you would be in a horrible mood that day too. It doesn't justify violence, but when you consider what Draymond was dealing with this particular day, and you combine it with the fact that I know this with certainty, the team has moved on from that. Okay, that punch, there are no lingering reverberations of that punch with this team. So that is not a problem anymore. It might have been a problem early in the season. The team has long moved on from that. But the situation with Draymond Green is that you're right. He asked for a max extension during the offseason. The Warriors said no. He has 1 year remaining on his contract after the season for $27 million and change. It is a player option. So when Draymond's talking like this, it makes me wonder considerably that Draymond will probably, who knows? It could be a leverage play that he's saying this, but it leads me to wonder if he's going to exercise or not exercise that player option. He's going to be a free agent, and there's a very strong possibility he leaves the Warriors after this year. I've always been strongly against losing important assets and getting nothing back in return. I hate that, especially in the NBA. It was the only reason why I never liked the Kelly Oubre situation, just because the Warriors basically spent $80 million on this player for a 1 year rental to be a barely above 500 team. But then instead of trading him, instead of re-signing him and then trading him, they just let him walk. And that was an asset they lost forever. That still eats my craw. I don't like that. I don't like if the Warriors decide that they're just going to let Draymond Green walk. That's the whole reason I've been bringing up trade discussions with him this year, because if he is going to move on, I would sure as like something back in return. Your thoughts on the fact that Draymond Green might just leave this year and the Warriors will get nothing back in return for him? That possibility exists. How does that sit with you, Kylen?
I mean, I agree with you, Cyrus. To me, the more business savvy move, if the writing is on the wall and it's very clear, and that's the thing, I don't know. I think some people bring up a good point in the chat, Justin. Is this a leverage play? Is this Draymond Green trying to send a message to the front office saying, hey, I will actually walk if you don't give me what I want? I think that's a possibility. That's always a possibility. There's some gamesmanship when it comes to, contract negotiations. But on the flip side, if the writing is actually on the wall and it would be clear, or it appears clear to both sides that Draymond Green is not going to be there, then I think that, the business savvy or the smarter move is to get something in return. And you see it happen with baseball all the time. With baseball teams where they're trading guys before the end of the season. And there's this like mad dash to try to get something in return for these players who, essentially, are gone at the end of their contracts. So, I agree with that. I agree that it seems like it would be the smarter move to try to get something back rather than let Draymond Green walk. I just don't know that I 100% believe that it's set in stone, or that, this is something that's clearly going to happen. I actually kind of buy into the theory that potentially Draymond is trying to, play the game a little bit.
Possible. I also see how much he loves LeBron. I also see how much he loves LeBron James. The Lakers will have the salary cap space to add Draymond next year, since Russell Westbrook is likely gone. I'm sure the Detroit Pistons, who have cap space, would be interested in bringing him in as a mentor for their young players. I do think Draymond Green has options if he decides he wants to go. And there's a couple things here in the chat real quick that I got to address real quick before we go to our commercial break here. Someone wrote that Steve right here. So Esdeen Fasasi writes, Kerr loves him, won't let it happen. Don't believe that. I'll leave it there. Gregors from Poland writes, due date for new CBA was extended by 1 month, referring to the collective bargaining agreement. This is a great point, because there's been no discussion lately. Like last summer, people were talking extensively. There were sources leaking out information from the negotiations that there was a strong possibility the new CBA will not penalize teams for their draft picks in terms of luxury tax penalties. If that actually happens, that's a game changer. Then I think Draymond will stay. I don't think it's even up for discussion. But if this luxury tax thing continues, there's a very good chance that he's gone. And just to add, Energy Manifest, Kerr is always praising Dre. He knows basketball. That's what you write. True. But again, this is why you watch our show. We're insiders. All right. Kerr and Dre, they're not always on the same page. I'll just leave it at that. And when we come back, I got to give some love to BetOnline, but we're going to talk some more Dre, revert back some positives with the White House, and talk about the Celtics game coming up. Let me get my overlay, because first we got to talk about BetOnline, and more specifically betonline.net. So betonline.net, they're your number one source for sports betting information, stats, news, and analysis. You can get the latest odds, you can get the latest trends for every professional and amateur league out there right now. The hottest thing to bet on are the NFL playoffs. Kylen, do you have an opinion on the 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys? I cannot believe they're playing each other again. It's this Sunday night in Santa Clara. I always hate saying in Santa Clara, but what are you going to do? What are your thoughts on that? The Niners are favored by, I'm seeing 3.5 to 4. Do you have a
I'm taking the Niners. I'm taking the Niners. I'm taking the over. I think the Niners are going to light up the Cowboys. I do. I think that they are electric. Brock Purdy, 4 TDs. Who is this kid and where did he come from? Like, it's just so crazy to me that he's Mr. Irrelevant. I think the Niners are going to roll. I think they should be Super Bowl contenders. I think they should roll through this divisional round. I think they're the superior team to the Cowboys. And I think it's going to be fun to watch.
It's going to be so fun to watch. I'm really excited for that. This is a huge test for the undefeated Brock Purdy. But regardless, you can get all the information you want by just going to betonline.net. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, it's where the game starts.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. You can follow Kylen Mills on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Kylen Mills. I just got this, shocking news, right? Andre Iguodala is hurt again. We have no idea when he's going to come back. This was his first reaction to the injury.
Oh, my neck, my back, my neck and my back. Oh.
He's doing that a lot. The man is old. He's in pain. Even Moses Moody chimes in often when we talk about Andre Iguodala.
I mean, it sucks.
Yeah, it totally sucks. So, Kylen, is that a wasted roster spot? Is what I'm trying to get at. He barely played in the postseason last year. He didn't play until like mid-January this season. He plays a few games and now he's hurt again. What's going on here? Is this a wasted roster spot? Your thoughts on Andre Iguodala before we go back to Draymond?
I'm so hesitant to just come out and say this is a wasted roster spot, but like I'm leaning that direction. The thing is, I don't know, because before the season, Andre Iguodala said, like, I will not come back in an assistant coaching role. And I wish he would, because I just think that mentorship is so invaluable. And I think if there was the option to bring him back in some other sort of role, like, I think the Warriors would have done that. Like, I do believe that. But he did say, there was a quote where he said that he like didn't want to come back and coach. So maybe they were just doing whatever they could to try to get him back and keep him around the team, because I do think that his presence, the veteran presence, he keeps Draymond Green in check. Speaking of Draymond Green, and the mentorship, I think, is super important. But wouldn't you love to keep him around and then still have that roster spot open? Like, to me, that would have been the best case scenario. To me, none of this is shocking that Andre Iguodala has been out all season. Actually, a little bit surprising. I didn't think we'd go this far in the season before making his debut. Like, I didn't think he was literally going to sit out the entire first half of the season pretty much and then get hurt again. But I don't know. I do sometimes have pipe dreams of Iguodala being back and healthy in the postseason and being able to help that second unit, like we talked about, try to figure things out. But it seems to be getting more far-fetched to me based on the fact that he cannot stay healthy. I don't know that he could stay healthy throughout a postseason.
That's the biggest issue. He just can't stay healthy. He's an old man.
Someone commented in the chat asking if he got, or saying they thought he got hurt on that breakaway dunk the other day.
I totally think so, because like
I actually wonder that too.
Right, I swear, like you could almost read his mind right after he did that dunk. He was,
oh, my neck, my back, my neck and my back. Oh.
He was literally saying that, not literally, actually. So in No Cap, by the way, writes this. I saw you tweet this as well about Anthony Slater on his podcast. How dare you mention one of our competitors? But nonetheless, we'll go on this real quick. I've heard the same thing. The Warriors are not going to make a deal. They're not going to make a trade. The way they see this roster and the way they see the landscape is that the Western Conference is weak, that the Warriors are bored, that they when they rise up, they actually do win the games they need to play. And this leads into third. Is there anything else we want to talk about with Draymond, by the way, before we move on? I mean, ultimately, like, there's nothing you could do at this point. You could still, I guess, in theory, make a trade. The trade deadline hasn't come on, but at the same time, every indication is that the Warriors are not going to make any kind of deal. Is there any final thoughts on Draymond Green and those comments before we move on? I mean, it was certainly upsetting. I hated hearing that, but your final thoughts.
Someone commented saying if Draymond leaves, Steph leaves. Someone mentioned that in our chat, and I don't believe that, but like I do wonder how much pull Steph Curry will have, because I don't think that Curry wants Draymond to leave. Because if you remember over the summer when Draymond said he was asking for or wanted a max extension, when all that news came out, Steph Curry reportedly came out and said he supported that and that he wanted the organization to meet, whatever Draymond's demands were. So I just wonder how much he'll have pull in the situation, because you got to keep Steph Curry happy, or at least try. I don't think Curry's leaving by any means, but like at some point, I feel like the front office is going to have to bend a little if Curry, pulls some strings and it's like, listen, I want Draymond here. I want him here through my tenure. So I don't know. I'd be curious as to what Steph's stance is on the situation now, and then how much he could impact what the front office decides, because he has major pull, obviously. So we'll see how it all plays out. It'll be interesting. That was just kind of my question or musing, was just, I wonder what Steph's, thoughts are on the whole situation. And then if he would try to intervene, if Draymond were to leave, would Steph try to, stop that from happening?
He might. I'm sure he would say something, but look, Steph's under contract until he's 38. So regardless of how upset he gets over that move, Steph's not going to leave. He's not going to make a trade demand. The drama's going to play out here at some point. No Cap, I don't know when Draymond said the leak was deliberate. Kylen, do you remember him saying that? I don't remember that. But whatever, regardless. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. This is, I guess the whole thing with this season is that so much of this drama, so much of this mediocre play, I feel like could have been avoided if the Warriors had just done a few things differently, like re-signing Gary Payne II, for example. Even though he didn't play most of the season, because I hear a lot of people, or I'm reading a lot of the chat commentary bringing up Gary Payne II, and I don't know why they let him go. I thought that was awful. I even just from a chemistry perspective, even just from a he's going to be back soon, so everything's going to be okay perspective, he would have been great staying with the team. And yeah, that part sucked. But anyway, so the Celtics, is that a big game, Kylen? Let's finish on that note, and then I'll play one soundbite from the White House visit because the Warriors were visiting Joe Biden today. Yeah, your thoughts on the Thursday Celtics game, because you're not going to be back on the show until Friday. How big of a game is that? I foresee the Warriors getting slaughtered. Is that going to matter? Is the game as important as it looks on paper? Your thoughts on the Warriors Celtics Thursday night?
Is the Warriors Celtics game important? Is the sky blue? Like, that was my first thought when you said that. Okay, how important is it? The more interesting question. I think it's super important. I mean, the Warriors getting the win over the Celtics the first time, I'm not going to lie, it kind of surprised me in the fashion they did. Like, they rolled the Celtics. I mean, it was a decisive win. It wasn't like it wasn't even a, buzzer beating close super, like the Warriors beat the Celtics. And given where they were at that point in the season, given the fact that they're 500 right now, like that still kind of surprises me. But if they come out and beat them on the road, like that's going to be just a huge confidence booster. And I think just really, a telltale sign for what the team's potential is moving forward, given their road struggles this season, given they've been one of the worst road teams this season. If they were able to pull out a win, like I think that could start to reverse the narrative completely. If you beat the best team in the NBA, and I think the Celtics are playing like the best team in the NBA right now, they've won 7 straight, is it? Jason Tatum is looking like an MVP candidate. He just had 51 yesterday. He's one of the hottest players in the NBA. If the Warriors can shut them down and get a win on the road, which is, in general, one of their major downfalls at this point in the season, that would be huge. Do I think it's going to happen? Oh, I want to believe really bad, but the play on the road has just been brutal, Cyrus. And you brought up the Washington game early on in the pod, and like it's just concerning to me. And I mentioned it as well, like 20 points off the bench in a 127-point game, like that's just not good. Steph Curry playing 38 minutes, that's just not sustainable. And expecting Curry and granted, Klay Thompson was out and Poole was in the starting lineup, and Poole ended up going off and having 32, but like expecting like 40, 32, you can't get that high volume of minutes and that much production from your starters every single night through the postseason without wearing them down. So I don't know. So that's just still my concern, and we'll see how it plays out against the Celtics. It would be huge if they can get the win. I don't know that I'm sold that it's going to happen. The Celtics look outstanding right now.
Yeah, I agree. The Warriors right now are currently 7th in the standings in the Western Conference by themselves. They're 8.5 games back of the conference leading Nuggets. They're a half game behind the Clippers for the 6th seed, a game and a half behind the Mavericks for the 5th seed, 3 games behind the Kings for the 4th seed. But they also only hold a half game lead over Utah, Minnesota, and Portland, who are right behind them. The Oklahoma City Thunder are just a game behind the Warriors. The LA Lakers are just 2 games behind the Warriors. So, you could sit there and look at the Western Conference standings and think, yeah, the Warriors are right in the middle of it. But one bad week and they're suddenly out of the playoff hunt altogether. It's crazy. This
look
situation.
At the Suns. I just can't stop laughing about the Suns downfall.
Yeah, they're bad.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, they're bad. Here's that final soundbite. This is Steph and Curry at the White House today. The Warriors were given the podium in the White House press room, and I saw some of the beat writers being giddy about that, rightfully so. So here's Steph at the presidential podium in celebration of the 2022 World Championship.
Biden and Vice President Harris for the invitation to come here. It's something that we don't ever take for granted. 7 years ago, I believe, we were here last celebrating our first championship, and now back to celebrate our 4th. So to have this opportunity to reflect on the accomplishment last year, to bring everybody together to celebrate that, to also acknowledge the play sports has and bring people together from all walks of life.
All right, so there is Steph. I don't know if you could hear that. The volume was kind of low. Any last thoughts, Kylen, before we wrap things up?
Matt Brotherton just said, is it just me or do the Dubs seem like a tale of two teams? Yes, that's my problem this year. They're two different teams. I mean, almost entirely at home versus on the road, but they have, had a couple of rough home losses and a couple of nice road wins. But in general, I feel like that's where you see a Jekyll and Hyde. But also to me, like a team that's a tale of two teams, that's inconsistent, that's not a good team. Like, you have to be able to consistently win and consistently put together good performances. I don't know. I don't know, man. I'm sounding negative, but
how can you? I mean, people have criticized me sometimes for that. They're like, "Man, you're so negative. How can you be positive?" The Warriors are a 500 team right now. They're I think 18th in differential. This is a category they've led. I think every year they've won a title. They're 18th. It's just they're not dominating teams out there. The road struggles are still very real. I mean, if they lose these games to the Celtics and Cavaliers, that's a 2-3 road trip, including a loss at Chicago, a game they should have won. How can you be positive about this? I'm with you. It's and so many of these fixes there are fixes for this. It's just for some reason the Warriors want to maintain the status quo. So in Kerr we trust. In Bob Myers, who might be leaving the team in a few months, and we trust. It's craziness. It is absolute craziness. It is mayhem. All righty. I guess we're done. Kylen, great. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I did want to jump in before we sign off. A couple of people asking about injuries. Yes, Jaylen Brown has been hurt with an adductor strain. I don't think it was an abductor. I think it was the adductor strain, which is similar to what Andrew Wiggins had been dealing with.
Correct.
So I don't know that there's a return date for Jaylen Brown in regards to the Boston Celtics. And as for the Warriors, I know you mentioned it early in the pod side, but Jonathan Kuminga and JaMychal Green are both supposed to return to practice this week. So that's positive. That's great. Supposedly JaMychal Green's infection has cleared up. It's good. He's better. Good. He's recovered from that, but now he's really got to get his fitness up and strength up. That's what the Warriors had released late last week or just before the weekend. Because, he was sick. I don't think he was able to do a lot of conditioning, given, what he was dealing with. So for him, it's just a matter of getting back out of practice and getting conditioned. And, I would imagine Jonathan Kuminga, it's going to be some of the same. If he had that strained foot, he probably hasn't been able to do a lot of, conditioning, running, fitness type of stuff to get back into game shape. But both are supposed to be back at practice. And then, hopefully a couple days, not much longer before they can get back into game shape. So no date set yet for either of those two, but, I think it's positive they can start practicing this week. We hope that, we see them by this weekend, next week, in the near future.
Yeah, there you go. And I think also for the Cavaliers game, I saw Donovan Mitchell get injured. So I don't know if he's going to play. I forgot what the injury was. It was a groin maybe. But look, folks, here's the bottom line for the Warriors and why they're struggling really hard this season. And this is why I'm so critical of these two-way players, is because the Warriors don't need offense. The offense is fine. They're fifth in the NBA in scoring, and they're only 0.1 behind being third. They average 117.5 points per game. The Jazz and the Grizzlies are just literally 0.1 ahead of them. The offense is fine. The issue with this team, and it's been the issue all year, is defense. They're an awful defensive team, and that especially shows on the road. Especially, the Warriors right now are 26th out of 30 teams in terms of points given up per game. That's bad. I've never seen the Warriors this bad defensively under Kerr. They were never this bad defensively under Mark Jackson. So when you're looking at a defense this bad, and let's not count the 2 years where they were kind of rebuilding and resting and all that, that's a concern. And that is why this entire season, these two-way guys have just not cut it for me. I'm not hating on. I hope I don't. I know it sounds like I'm hating on them, but they don't bring much to the table defensively. And they're certainly not a Gary Payton II. I'm still gonna air in a grievance about Quindary Weatherspoon being waived because he was exactly what they needed. And I don't know, just because of egos. I hope everyone knows this. They cut Weatherspoon because of ego, because he actually expressed verbally that he wanted to have a guaranteed deal. And this team, man, they just get really sensitive about players. It makes me wonder if Moses Moody, right? If the reason why he's not playing is because he literally
it sucks.
Yeah, and he talked about that in regards to his playing time and always constantly staying ready. it really makes me wonder. And I don't like that attribute from leadership. I don't like leaders who have these like really overly sensitive egos that can't handle negativity being espoused towards them, even if it's not like harsh, even if it's not direct. So that's really like, out of all the seasons the Warriors have been under Kerr, under Bob Myers, this is the first time where I repeatedly tell myself,
makes no damn sense.
It makes no sense. None of it. The only thing that makes sense is that it's just ego and it's just personal feelings being put ahead of what's best for the team. And this is the season we're in. So I'm very curious to see what happens when the postseason comes around. I'm very curious to see what happens with these two-way players when their 50-game limits are up, which is going to be closer to the 70-game mark of the regular season, which is really weird. I don't want Jacob Evans back. Hell no. Any last thoughts, Kylen, before we go? Sorry for the
Cyrus, I thought we were going to get through a whole episode without talking about Anthony Lamb and Ty Jerome, or Cy Jerome, I should say. So that's why I almost started laughing. We could not get through an episode without you mentioning it. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'm hoping the Warriors turn things around still. Gregors, sorry, I don't know if I'm mispronouncing the name, but the dogs are locked out today. They are in the dog house because they're always disrupting this show and this program, but I'm sure they say hi.
Absolutely. Yeah, and LR, why would I apologize to any of these guys? The Warriors are 22-22. They have the second worst road record in the NBA. They have the fourth worst defense in the NBA. Why am I apologizing? Lamb and Jerome were not part of the World Championship team. Why? I'm not warmly embracing them when the result of them being on this team is a 500 product with horrible defense. I don't embrace that. Okay. Like, and I'm not a cheerleader for this team. Okay. Like, please don't mistake me for that. I love them, but I'm going to criticize the moment I see something going wrong, and something's going wrong here. This is not a fully properly functioning team. This is not. If they were functioning properly, they would be playing like last year, where they were routinely at the top of the standings, routinely had the best defense in the NBA. That's not going on this year. And Dennis B, sorry, but Vucevic in that Bulls game had 43 points and 13 rebounds. Who do you think was defending him most of that game? So if you want to be a Lamb apologist, go for it. That's your prerogative. But don't sit here and say that he's a stout, positive defender when this team routinely is giving up way too many points and losing a lot of games that they shouldn't lose. So yes, now Lax Payne, I think, is right on it. Mike Brown clearly deserves a ton of credit because he leaves. This team's defense goes to, you know what? Meanwhile, the Sacramento Kings now have the fourth best record in the NBA. So yeah, Mike Brown, more power to you. By the way, speaking of Mike Brown, hopefully this week, the Kings announcer, I'm having a total brain fart right now. What's his name? Why am I drawing a blank on his name?
Ooh, their TV play-by-play? Kyle Draper.
Yeah. Mark Jones. Mark Jones. Thank you. Mark Jones.
Mark Jones. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, we'll hopefully join the program later this week as well to talk about Warriors and so much more. But yeah. And D, I'm not hoping for anyone to get hurt. I don't want Lamb to get hurt. But I look, you know what's funny? At the beginning of the season, remember that when Jonathan Kuminga was getting all those DNPs? And everyone immediately was like, well, in Kerr we trust. He's not playing good. He doesn't deserve it. And then the moment Kuminga started playing, all those haters shut up. That's the same thing with Moody. He needs to play. Please stop judging a player who never plays. He averages 15 minutes per game, and that's based on earlier games. Recently, he's getting 5 minutes, 6 minutes. How can you judge him? How can you judge him if he's barely playing? It's ridiculous.
I agree. I agree on that because I feel like there's people who are like, oh, well, he didn't play good in that last game or he played bad defense. Like, dude played 4 minutes. Like, how can you get into any type of rhythm or anything playing 4 minutes?
Agreed. And I'm talking bad about the two-way players, NBA 876, because the Warriors are bad. And you know what the difference is between last year and this year? Anthony Lamb and Ty Jerome. I'm not blaming Dante DiVincenzo. There's no chance in hell. This team would be worst without Dante DiVincenzo. If Anthony Lamb and Ty Jerome were not seeing any minutes, which is how it should be with two-way players for every other team in the NBA, this team would not be worst. At a minimum, they'd be the exact same. They'd probably be better because Moses Moody is a very athletic individual. He's a great shooter. He shoots nearly 40% from three. I don't get it. And everyone who hates on Moody, his stats are better this year than last year. None of you were hating on him last year. It just drives me crazy. Kylen, love you. Love everyone. Anything else? Are we done? Are
I'm
we
just
good?
eating my popcorn over here. And we gotta go. We gotta go. We'll run it back on Friday. I am loving it, but we gotta cut it off.
But I just like addressing these things because this is pure ignorance. Like D writes, you blame Lamb and not the core group. The core group is they've won 4 championships. Why would I blame them? I'm going to blame the new pieces that have turned this team from one of the best in the NBA to a 500 team that can't play defense. That's why I'm doing that. The starting 5 has the best plus-minus differential in the NBA. The starters are not the problem. The problem is the moment you go to that bench, there is such a regression, and they just do not know how to play defense and play great ball. So, yeah, I know they're trolling me, but also my response hopefully makes great content. Thanks, everyone. And we'll be back at it tomorrow. Kevin Dana joins the program on a Wednesday. Is this Tuesday? Yes. And then you'll be back with me Friday, Kylen. Thanks, everyone. Peace out. Later. Bye.